All right, I'm seeing a lot of participants show up here, so we're going to go ahead and get rolling. Um, First things first, if you can't hear or see us, please let us know right away in the chat. I think we're coming through loud and clear. We've done a few tests here, but just in case, please let me know. Um, we are talking about authentic video today, and I'll do the intros here for both of our panelists in just a second. But this is a really exciting conversation. Perry and I connected, I don't know, Perry and I over the summer, maybe a few months ago. I mean, I've known of you for quite some time, but really had the first chance to have a conversation recently. And we had just, one of those conversations where it's like, oh, wow, like this person really gets it. And she really is, in tune with modern fundraising and tactics and communication and how people interact with the nonprofits they support. And that just kept on, building and building. We decided, well, let's have this conversation with a lot of other people. Let's bring more people into the fold and talk about authentic video and what it means for engagement and fundraising. And that's how we got to where we are today. So many of you on the line may already know Perry. Again, we just really connected for the first time not too long ago. Perry, has been doing this for quite some time. She is the founder and principal at Rad Philanthropy, helps organizations with everything from interim staff to strategic counsel to managing key projects, being a donor advisor, helping donors really hone in on their giving priorities and philanthropic priorities. Prior to launching Rad Philanthropy, Perry has been in the industry for 15 plus years, working in annual giving, alumni relations, Scripps College, Emerson College, Caltech, Harvey Mudd College, and then getting your starter alma mater at UC Santa Cruz. So, Perry, thank you so much for joining us today. Before I head over to Zach's slide, anything you want to say?
Just really excited to be here with everyone today. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time with us. Zach Corbin is my colleague here at First Name, and we've been working together since before First Name officially launched in February of 2021. Zach is our Senior Director of Client Services, meaning he leads pretty much everything on the client side, including a team of our video experts to just produce an incredible amount of authentic video, authentic student video, and to integrate that strategically with fundraising campaigns. We're not just a production house. We are a team of consultants, and Zach certainly fits that mold. Spent some time at BWF, was at Franklin and Marshall before that, University of Delaware before that. Really understands this industry really in a very impressive way. I've been extremely impressed with Zach's time here, and I can't wait to have Perry and Zach share what they have to say. So, Zach, anything else you want to mention before we ask the first question?
No, just thank you everybody for your time. I'm excited to have this conversation. Great topic to talk about today.
Also, just a couple of housekeeping things. Everyone sees the Q&A, I'm sure. We've got Q&A up there. Perry is, oh, hey, Amanda. How you doing? Yeah, Perry is awesome, and we're excited to get this conversation rolling. There's questions and answer. There's chat. I will be monitoring that throughout, so please, you don't need to wait till the end to ask a question. I'll try to kind of insert it strategically based on the flow of the conversation that we have coming up. So, that being said, we'll probably have time at the end as well if you want to kind of, ask the questions towards the end of the hour-long webinar. So I'd like to get started with Perry. And Perry, if you would please define engagement, talk about how maybe we can measure it. How can we track engagement so that it leads to results? But, maybe just starting with that first question, how do you define engagement?
Yeah, I think in the most basic sense, I think of engagement as connectedness. And because of that, because we're in a relational industry as fundraisers, connectedness or engagement is the bread and butter of what we do. Now, if you're like me and you spend a lot of time as a fundraiser, you might have also had the experience of saying, oh, our folks aren't so engaged. It's really hard to fundraise. So we know engagement makes fundraising easier. But engagement doesn't only exist to help us fundraise. Engagement is here for other reasons too. And I think really looking at the case definition helps us break that apart even more. So I'm going to read their little spiel over here so I get this right. So they define engagement as activities that are valued, that help build enduring and mutually beneficial relationships, that things that inspire loyalty and financial support, activities that strengthen the institution's reputation and involve supporters in meaningful activities to advance the institution's mission. So another way to look at this that I think is a little bit more straightforward is the 3 R's, which is something my old boss used to talk about, which is the work of advancement. So focusing on reputation, revenue, and relationships. In advancement, those are really the three key areas that we are trying to move the needle on to make a difference for our current students, for our alumni community, especially as more and more of us see our schools as being responsible for lifelong relationships and support of our alumni, not just the current students. So engagement is all that stuff that makes people feel warm and fuzzy and makes them want to volunteer or come to a party or make a gift. All those things are engagement. Now, that being said, like I mentioned earlier, there is increasing focus on engagement as a tactic to lead to fundraising. That being said, I think a number of us are really concerned about the diminishing numbers of alumni giving and what that means. And I know I'm not the first to say that a lot of the very transactional processes or actions that we're doing to engage people is what is leading us down this pathway of relationships with less depth, fewer donors, fewer people coming to events, all sorts of ramifications that we're seeing. So as we kind of flip this and think, well, how do we make sure? How do we track? How do we know that we are doing engagement right? I think this is something that you have to be quantitative and qualitative about. So I would say when I think about, from the qualitative point of view, when I think about experiences where I've worked in-house, a really great way to know how engaged people are as a fundraiser or an engagement officer is how many people you know at the party. Think about your first homecoming versus your last. How many people did you know who knew you, who you had a relationship with? When you have these signature events and everyone in the room is interconnected and you can introduce everybody and know everybody, to me, that's a great qualitative sign that something's going right, that you really understand people, their interests, their affinities, and that you are growing connectedness in your community. Now, from a metrics point of view, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. And I think a good way to break that down is like going back to the case definition. So like you could look at it from a marketing point of view. How are your emails doing? Are people continually opening them? Are you getting clicks? Are you getting whatever your CTA is, your conversions, right? You could look at it from event attendance. You can do ratios. What percentage of people are participating in some way, whether that's our good old friend, the alumni participation, alumni giving metric, or whether it's event attendance or joining a mentorship program with current students. There's so many different ways you can do that. I think you really just want to focus on what the programs are that are your engagement programs and determine appropriate metrics for each of those. They're going to be different because there's so many different ways to engage people. So you really have to break it down by what you're looking to do and then rate it that way.
I'd be curious, just in a quick follow-up for Zach or Perry, please. But when you think about moving from that strictly transactional mindset, which I think a lot of people in annual giving still kind of fall back on, to a more engagement-focused mindset, not never obviously soliciting, but who's doing that well? Do you know of any organizations or institutions or individuals or what have you who have made a really concerted, intentional move away from that always be asking mentality to engagement, and maybe even spending some time they would be soliciting on engagement to have better results down the road? Putting you on the spot in a big way.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. So I mean, selfishly, I'll just give a shout out to all of our client partners. I think kind of investing in authentic video and video at scale is a way to deepen all of that engagement. And like Perry said, really expand that connectedness. There's some really great organizations focusing on volunteerism and expanding that as an engagement opportunity and looking at that as kind of a first step in to the organization, to the university. And I think this is something that Perry mentioned, is there are so many different pathways in for engagement, right? It's not just one lane in. There's a lot of different on and off ramps here. And I think it's important because whether we're talking about a donor or we're talking about a constituent, everybody's journey looks a little bit different. And it's certainly not linear. And so I think whether you're looking at this as like the funnel or the flywheel, I think that engagement, that connectedness point is really important, whether we're trying to get donors back on the road to retention, we're trying to deepen engagement, we're just trying to add value at different points in that person's constituent experience. And that's why, I'm really excited to talk today about video in the digital space, because I think that lets us scale much more than we've been able to do in the past with some of these traditional outreach channels or traditional engagement opportunities. So I will say, I think, it's important to distinguish. We're going to talk about authentic video today. And we're not talking about maybe some of the video that comes to mind when we think about, what's been done in the past. I'm talking about at the launch of a campaign, kind of a sweeping, high production video. Today, we're talking about something that's not as produced, but something we're still really proud of. And that's what authentic video is all about, is reaching people with those messages. So lots of different people, I think, are doing that well. I don't know if I can pinpoint just one, but I'd love to talk a little bit about, how we approach video as a channel. So when we're talking about
with one thing,
yeah,
before you pivot to that, I just want to circle back to this metrics issue, because I think this is sometimes the crux of the problem, where teams get really focused on transactional fundraising versus engagement. This eternal question of, or statement, belief, ideology. It's so much easier to measure fundraising than it is to measure engagement. And I would challenge that, especially when it comes to video in particular, because we have really special metrics around video that help us see how much people are paying attention. With an email open, we're not really sure, especially with some of the stuff that has happened behind the scenes that has affected what looks open to us now. Some of us may be following the last couple of years. But with video, we know how much of the video are they actually watching. Did they click on it? There's a lot more of these clicky analytics ready for us. And so if we use video as an example, that can really help us narrow that quantitative measurement gap between engagement and fundraising that we sometimes see, and help us get away just from that kind of empty talk of, we care about engagement, but we're a little not sure how to measure it. This is a great way to solve that problem and make sure you're actually doing it, and not just being more transactional, doing more asks, doing all that stuff that is easy to measure the activity and the results, but maybe is doing long-term harm down the line with our relationships.
Thanks, Barry. Thank you, Zach. Quick apology, and I guess I'll crowdsource this question as well. Chat seems to be disabled for everyone. I think Perry and Zach and I are able to communicate via chat, but it seems like no one else is. So first of all, if anybody knows how to enable chat on Zoom mid-webinar, I have a feeling it might be one of those things that we didn't do in the setup. So again, my apologies. So if we can't get it back up, please keep on using Q&A just as you are. If anyone is a Zoom expert and can tell me how to get chat back active for everyone during the webinar, I'm happy to do it. Just point me in the right direction via the Q&A. We have had some activity there. James said, one of the metrics should be a metric or target range alongside conversion. I know that's one of the things we've been really pushed on is, yes, video views, yes, click-through rates, yes, all of that. And then kind of tying it to conversions. And that can be a little tricky. We'll get into that. I can't remember if we do that later today or next week during episode 2 of the webinar here. But yes, ultimately conversion does matter a lot. So being able to tie those metrics to conversion is obviously a big part of the equation. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and ask the next question. And this one, Zach, if you want to start with this, what does it mean? You mentioned video as a channel. What does it mean when you say embrace video as a channel?
Yeah, absolutely. And like Justin said, please keep dropping those questions in the Q&A for us. We'll try to get to those as we can. I think, I was kind of getting into this before about it's important to distinguish between authentic video and the sort of higher production videos. I don't think it's realistic or anybody has the budget to launch some of those higher production value videos. But with authentic video, if we can relax a little bit of the production value there with minimal equipment, minimal startup costs, we can really scale this. And so when we talk about video as a channel, what we're really talking about is not creating a video repository or anything like that, but how do we weave this video content in between all of the different channels that we're using for our outreach? And so taking a step back, I think it's important to look at video as a medium and understand why it's so important. If we think about written word, obviously email, direct mail are big parts of advancement shop outreach, even today. Spoken word, getting people on the phone with phonathons has been a staple for a long time, but it's harder to get return off of that channel now. So video really gets to combine all of these great elements. It's got the visual imagery, it's got that spoken word, and when you put that together, I think we get a really great storytelling medium, probably above a lot of our other options that are out there. And this is crucial because more and more people, not surprisingly, are on their screens, they're consuming video content. We're just using more and more video throughout our lives. We're on a Zoom webinar right now. If you pick up the phone, you might be FaceTiming your friends and family. It's just a ubiquitous part of what we do. And if you actually look, there are surveys out there that the hours of video viewed per week are up 62% from 2018. And so I'm going to go ahead and just share some statistics of what we're seeing in terms of people on social media networks and the video that they are consuming. And you can see it's not surprising, right? The top two getting the lion's share there, but people are on social media consuming this video content. More and more of these platforms have continued to optimize for video consumption. So I think when we think about, we've got this great medium for storytelling, we've got people consistently on their phones, it's a great nexus for what we want to kind of do. And so in the Q&A, if you want to go ahead and drop in, I thought it'd be interesting if we all took a little bit of a look at our own personal screen time. So obviously that's what the surveys, that's what the stats say, but in real time, what does this say for us? So if you're on an Android, you want to look to the left-hand side of the screen here, you go to your digital well-being and parental controls, and then click the dashboard from there, and you'll get a readout of your activity. If you're on an iPhone, pretty simple, go to settings, then screen time, and you can see what's displayed on the right-hand side. So I took a look at yesterday, Tuesday, and I was clocking in at 3.5 hours. I'm curious, what does your readout look like? Hours and minutes on a screen. Drop that in the Q&A. Perry, Justin, I'm not sure if you've got anything pulled up that you could share as well.
I can't believe I'm only at an hour 52, which is down 41% from last week. But yeah, I spend a lot of time.
Good for you, Justin.
Danny here spends a lot of time on his phone, it looks like.
Danny might have a screen problem for sure.
Danny might, yes.
Perry, what about you?
This morning has been a good day, but I would not say it is typical. I've been on Instagram for 15 minutes, and that's about it. But preparing for this conversation this morning, I wasn't doing my typical doom scrolling that I might be up to.
And so we'll see if there's other additional comments in the chat, but I think larger point being is lots of people are spending time on social media, consuming these videos. So when we're talking about what it means to have a video-centric approach, this is really finding ways to insert video into everything that we're already doing, complementing it, not getting rid of what we are doing, but finding ways to provide lift with video. So we'll talk about this a little bit later about what this means for specific channels, but lift in terms of higher click-through rate on your emails by incorporating some video, more engagement on organic social media by incorporating video, and then with paid digital, which is one of our favorite methods to get this video out, lower cost per action, depending on what we're doing, but consistently across the board, that's what we see. So the good news is that every single advancement shop today can start producing authentic video right now with relatively little cost, which is really exciting, I think. And I know we're going to start diving into what that can look like.
Yeah, thanks very much. I want to real quick just address a couple questions here and then keep on moving. Amanda Baca, thank you for chiming in here, talking about getting leadership buy-in. I think that's a really good question. I think we can get into that in a bit. But, just talking about I mean, showing some of these stats, and I wouldn't say like those broad usage stats, but look at video viewership, especially when you use authentic video. It's incredible. And then I know I know we'll get into this a little bit later, but one of the things I really want to encourage everyone to think about is start thinking like a marketer, right? You know, in marketing, they're constantly being evaluated on engagement metrics, video views, clicks, engagements, things like that. And overlaying activity, so sales activity, fundraising activity, what have you. I mean, that's a really important way of making a sale to leadership, is because a lot of the stuff, there's not a direct funnel. A lot of times you should be putting a lot of authentic video on social media to warm your audiences, full stop. You should have new video content every week on your main social media channels, because as we just saw, that's where people are. That's where they're active. I saw someone on here say they have 6 hours and 20 minutes of screen time on their mobile device. And that's fairly typical. So, that's where people are. That's where the engagement takes place. And that over time does lead to more fundraising activity, because warming is a real thing and it does drive behavior. Great question, though.
Yeah, I will definitely come back to more of that. I think it's a really important question, but kind of going off what Justin just said, thinking about this leadership buy-in question, there's this way you can kind of fuse the metrics and these new ways of reaching people that I think are going to be compelling. So for example, if you've seen what's happening with digital gift officer programs, where you have individual frontline fundraisers reaching 1,000 people personally with some regularity, I think it's really hard to imagine a VP who wouldn't be over the moon to see that something like that is possible for themselves. So if we think about how we can marry some of those traditional fundraising touch points, like number of visits, contacts, that sort of thing, with the digital marketing tools. So what's the viewership? What's the open rate? What's the engagement? I think that's where we can, help people get into this next generation of metrics and see how much value there is going to be in these approaches. And that's not to say we shouldn't stop mailing people. We shouldn't stop calling people. I still believe those are really important approaches too. I think it's really just about having a bigger toolbox, right? So to that point, I want to talk a little bit about how you can do this, how you can start incorporating video, because I think if you or your team haven't done it yet, there can be some concerns, fears, just kind of a lack of confidence of how you progress with this. So I'm going to start off by kind of telling a personal anecdote, which I think is going to be really helpful. And the moral of the story is you got to just test it out and then you'll figure it out from there. So when I was a director of leadership annual giving, I was responsible for stewardship for unassigned 1,000+ donors. So I created a template and got in the habit of sending those donors personalized thank you videos. It took me upfront work, in part because I wanted to have it be formatted a certain way. I wanted there to be some specific college news, and that was something I would have to update regularly myself. And I had to get in the habit of filming videos. So some of the things that help with that habit are getting your setup right. So as you might tell, I have a nice little lighting helping me out today. So feeling confident about that sort of thing, your background, your overall appearance, whatever it may be, you kind of just have to get used to it. I think a lot of us are way more used to seeing our own faces now because of how much we're on Zoom. And that's something that is kind of changing how we think of ourselves in a way, but you have to practice. I got down from taking, almost a whole day to get this thing set up in the beginning to getting these videos out the door a few minutes at a time. And it really is similar to what I used to do when I would do handwritten notes to everybody. Same thing of looking through their record in the database really quickly. I have those quick points. I'm always checking number of consecutive years, special funds they're giving to, any other affinity or kind of specialty flags that tell me something about them and their personality. Just make a quick note in your head, 1, 2, 3 years of giving, how much, fund, whatever it is. You can record the video really quickly. And just that practice that's going to get you up to speed and make a difference. And I will say one of the unexpected results of doing those videos was that I got so many thank yous to my thank yous. And if you've ever been in that, I guess it's kind of like, all the Spider-Men pointing at each other in a way. When you get in that situation, sometimes it's a little funny because you don't know how to say thank you to a thank you to a thank you. But you know what? That's a really good position to be in. And I hope you can be in that one day. So another thing I want to suggest is if you are thinking about doing video for the first time, who are the experts at your institution who can help you? So maybe you have one team that has figured this out. Maybe athletics is doing a great job with video, or maybe admissions is doing a great job with video. Can you get lunch with your colleagues in those departments and kind of hear what the process was to get them to this point? Because it's easy to forget, just because the team is doing something awesome now doesn't mean it started off awesome off the bat. It's a process to get places. And so that's going to be a really key thing. Are there marketing writers who can help you? Is there a videographer or a media team who can help you kind of get used to this setup? Tap into whatever knowledge your institution has to help you with this, and then start practicing. So the next thing I want you to really think about if you're beginning to approach video is what your strategy is going to be. So you have lots of different types of video you can create. You can create broad video. You can create things that are maybe really specific to a segment. You can create one-on-one personal video. It really goes back to what you are trying to accomplish, who you're trying to move, whether it is just deepening the engagement, whether it's moving them through the pipeline, and what is going on with your specific program. So a couple examples of what type of video you could do are, you could do a broad video to increase awareness for a day of giving, that it's coming. That could be something silly from like your mascot to like a really well-known faculty member, or, an alumni board president, whoever it is going to maybe be like an influencer for your campus or well-known. It's a great person to feature, and something broad like that that's really warming your audience for a signature event of some kind. If you have a specific segment you're trying to work with. So for example, if you're in charge of athletics fundraising and you're trying to get people to your Hall of Fame event, can you get the AD to do something just to your athletics alumni you're inviting? Like, what is going to speak to that audience? Maybe it is you have an alumni who is an Olympian or whatever it may be. Can you get them to record a video to invite their fellow athletic alumni back? And then, of course, you can do one-to-one videos. So if you are working in like a school or unit, for example, and you have an advisory board, can you have your dean do welcome videos to new advisory board members or invitations to people that you are cultivating to join? What you really want to do is think about, what are these finite campaigns that are going to move the needle on the audience you are focused on? And in a way, what are these really small campaigns that can get you used to this and practicing it, figuring out, we'll talk a lot more about this next week, but what does the workflow look like? What does actually producing the videos look like? Having these mini projects is going to get you really geared up to do more and more and build over time, because you are not going to go from 0 videos to 20,000 videos overnight. In part because your audience also isn't going to be used to it, lest we forget. We don't want to go from 0 to a gazillion for our audience. That might feel a little inauthentic as well. So how are we connecting to our programs that are really specialized with video? That's what I want you to be thinking about when you're looking at a new video program.
A couple quick questions here. Perry, fairly tactical. When you're sending those videos out, are using a specific platform, simply Outlook, for your work in this space? What's the distribution channels? What do the distribution channels look like? And Zach, I know you're going to tackle this in the next section, but we're just kind of curious about your work, Perry.
Great question. Well, as those of us who've done our time in annual giving know, you generally can't really embed a video in an email. You really have to be able to distribute to somewhere else. So, ThankView has been a really popular platform. There's other things like Gradavid, Loom. I used a Gmail plugin when I personally sent thank you videos after I got married, because I'd rather do videos instead of cards. I thought I cribbed that from work. At that point, I was like, well, this is going to be way easier and faster for us to sit here and record a bunch of videos versus write cards to everybody. So there's so many platforms you can use. I think it comes down to your individual tech stack and what you are using, what your email marketing platform is, what your website hosting platform is, that sort of thing. I'll put a couple of those options in the Q&A, but it's dependent on your organization. And as we know now, most schools have a lot of apps working together at this point. So it is more complex.
Thank you, Perry. Appreciate it. Zach, on the social media, time on social media poll that you shared, we have some questions about the demographics of who was polled. Is that all internet users? Is that different age groups? Do you happen to know on that time on social media graphics who we're asking?
I can definitely dig in on that, and I can send that direct source out. Off the top of my head, though, I don't have the stats of who was polled for that.
Gotcha. And yeah, we can get the types of platforms out. There's a question, Perry, on putting in the Q&A what the platforms are. So if you want to go ahead and do that, or we can always send out an email to everybody afterwards with tips and platforms and things that we're using in this space. So good question. Keep them coming, please. Appreciate that. All right, so I'm going to throw the next one out there. I think Zach, maybe this is your spot to lead off, but let's actually define authentic video, and let's show people what authentic video is. What is it, and how are we applying it? How should it be applied?
Yeah, so I think Perry was alluding to this, where there's tons of different options to find people to be in these authentic videos and incorporate those into our work. I think there's just a lot of great examples that she threw out there, and I keep going back to this. This not overly produced. I think if you look at the equipment we've got in our pockets, Apple shoots a lot of their commercials on their iPhones, so this is really simple to get up and get started. But some of our favorite phrases, I think, around authentic video is it's university approved, not necessarily produced, or authentic, but not amateur. So things that you're going to be proud of putting out there, obviously. But again, it's not going to be some of that lofty production style. So, the good thing is we talked about how amazing video can be as a medium to tell the messages, to tell the stories that we want to support the vision and mission of our organizations. A lot of people who are watching this, you've got a lot of talented storytellers at the ready. And here at First Name, we especially think your best storytellers are actually your students. And so, when we talk about what that can look like, very minimal equipment setup, you can start creating content. Really, it's simple. A couple of things that you need: microphone. Nobody's going to really notice good audio quality, but everybody will notice bad audio quality. So getting that right is important. Something for stabilization. So a tripod, very simple. And then with those two items, you can get by with a phone to shoot the videos. And I think when you think about where we can apply this, what are those use cases? It's anywhere a student has a chance to kind of tell about their own personal experience. And I think there's a lot of ways that can be interconnected to what we're trying to do, whether it's engagement or fundraising related. I think Perry mentioned maybe in advance of a giving day or another big signature event that is happening, a lot of content about what it really means to support students. Who better to tell that story than the students themselves? Same thing with some of these bigger events that are more engagement focused, like homecoming or parents and families weekends, things like that. It's a great way to get a student on the video, inviting people back to campus, connecting that space and place, pulling on kind of that nostalgia, or even after the fact, send a recap of the video about all the great things that happened. So next time one of these events rolls around, nobody has to worry about missing that. So that's really, that connecting space and place is really important. It's got the ability to transport viewers back to campus, especially if we're thinking about some of our alumni audiences or alumni segments we're working with. They can be a really powerful tool. So I want to kick it over to Justin, because I think he's going to share, when we're talking about some of this authentic video produced by students, this is what it can look like.
Yeah, so we got a few different examples here. And the first one I want to share is a scripted example, right? So a lot of this is extremely authentic, where we're simply just providing some direction. But in other cases, there are campaigns these are tied to. And this is just a really good example of some of that authentic, but not amateur, which is a phrase we borrowed from one of our client partners at the University of Missouri, authentic, but not amateur video that really does deliver a nice message.
Austin, what starts here changes the world. Hi, my name is Jacob Arango, and I started my journey at UT not that long ago. And I gotta say, I'm over the moon for what's available here for students. Surrounded by a strong sense of pride and unity, UT is a place anyone can call home. The 40 acres has got us covered, with many different places for students to dine, study, hang out, and even play. I'm currently studying at the Moody College of Communications, majoring in radio, television, film. UT has one of the best film programs here in the country, and it gives young filmmakers like myself a great opportunity to advance our careers. With amazing courses taught by professors like Matthew McConaughey himself, access to professional grade equipment, and the incredible orgs that students form every year, the futures of us Longhorns shine brighter than ever. I'm very lucky to be here, and that wouldn't have been possible without the great scholarships available for UT students. These scholarships are funded by philanthropy, and they help out so many young people around the nation. Thank you so much for watching, and hook 'em horns.
So again, wonderful piece of content right there. The next one I want to share is content that we are constantly advocating for. And I'd actually love to hear from folks on the line, what their experience is with the more authentic content. Now, here we have something that isn't scripted at all. There's an event, and we essentially have a student who's trained to cover these events, go out and produce a video blog, right? Sort of that vlog type content. What I want everyone to be thinking about, and I'd love your advice and feedback on this, is, how do you encourage colleagues who might be a little bit more uncomfortable with reducing control over content to embrace authentic video? Because I think you'll see here in a second, it really is some good content.
My last week as a Mizzou student went a little something like this. First, I finished all my assignments and said bye to all my professors. Then I had lunch with coworkers and they got me flowers. Lots of people were out celebrating that day. Next, I enjoyed the senior send-off run and cherished my last moments on the quad. After that, I performed in a yard show with my sorority sisters, and it was so much fun. I love stepping and dancing, and it was a good way to end out my year. Afterwards, I celebrated with friends in a bounce house, and it was so fun. The next day, I had a very sad goodbye to all of my sorority sisters who I've grown to love throughout the years. These girls have taught me so much love and kindness, and I will forever cherish them. All the seniors got gifts, and it was a really nice morning. The next morning, I sat on the quad and reflected on my time as a Mizzou student, and I will forever be thankful for the memories I've made at this university. MIZ.
Now, again, this is not without parameters. I mean, all of these things are reviewed by our team, at least. Typically, the client is also there reviewing it. But it is a really good example of, again, that phrase that Mizzou mentioned, that's a Mizzou video, authentic, not amateur. And the engagement on videos like this are exponentially, I do mean that, many factors of X higher than the more traditional video content you might produce from an event like that. That's just in the fundraising space. You can imagine in admissions and enrollment what that can do, content like this. So again, I'd be curious to know, maybe in the Q&A, how you're navigating if you're pushing for more authentic video, and how you're navigating that push, because it does work really well. And what that content allows you to do is saturate social media feeds with paid and organic content that gets out in front of your audiences and prepares them for when you send them a video like this. This video, last example I'll show, is again scripted, more bottom of the funnel. This is what happens after we've had a lot of that authentic warming content at the top of the funnel. We can then send something like this piece and hopefully get some good results.
Right now, it's Thursday morning. We just have a few hours left to help raise the roar for Mizzou Giving Day. Thanks to your past generosity, we've raised more than funds. Together, we're raising support for all things we love about Mizzou. We have until noon Central Time today to make a difference. That's just a few more hours where we can come together to change lives. Every last gift makes a difference. No matter the amount, your support can help us make this the most successful campaign yet. So make your gift now and join us in raising the roar for Mizzou. MIZ.
So those are the examples. That's what we mean when we say authentic, not amateur video content. There's a lot of stuff in between all those examples as well. but it does work, and it works when you have a really good distribution plan. So I think, Zach, maybe this is a continuation on what you were talking about, but of course, Perry, please do weigh in as well. How do we get this content seen? What's the district? Oh, sorry, Perry, you gonna say something?
Just one quick thing is recycle, recycle, recycle. We're really great at creating content and then making it a huge thing in our heads, deploying it once and not really being sure that everyone saw it. So when you're using this content, as long as it isn't as specific as Perry, thank you for giving $50 to the mental health fund, use it again, use it on social, use it for personal, use it on email, have a QR code on your direct mail. There's so many ways you can reuse this content. And especially at the beginning, when you're figuring out how to produce it and it's feeling like more of a push, you aren't in your zone yet, you aren't in your flow state, make the most of it, stretch that content, reuse it everywhere, especially when you have a really charismatic student, or the Moody example was a great one. You have a film student who knows how to do this on their own. Work with them, partner them, use their talents and skills to get this broader message out there.
Yeah, very good point. Recycling content. It's one of those things where we feel like we've produced a piece of content, we sent it out via email, text, and it's on social media. I promise you, the majority of your audience has not yet seen that video. Give them more opportunities to see that video. Get that out there as many times as possible.
Or think of it as a commercial. Like, think about it in terms of traditional marketing. It's okay for people to see things more than once. In fact, it's actually better if they see things more than once.
What is it? 7 touch points are required before it actually makes an impression. Get that video and get the volume on. There's a question in the Q&A which kind of speaks to volume. Melissa says she's working with scholarship recipients to create more video content for giving sites for social media, but it takes a lot of time. That's true. That's why our company exists, because we build teams of these video creating students and produce literally hundreds of videos every year so that you have new content every week. But that does require a lot of time. The investment's worth it. The engagement leads to giving. It's as simple as that. But if you are just one person, that doesn't mean you shouldn't throw up your arms and say, well, I can't produce 200 videos a year, so I'm not going to produce any. Getting content out, working with students, sometimes just letting the students be the students and allowing them to produce. If you put a lot of parameters on them, it's going to stifle the amount of content you can produce, even with a full team. But if you allow them to be more natural, more authentic, with less edits per video, that's another way to get a lot more video content out, even if you just have one student. Better to have 20, 25 authentic videos a year than none at all, right? So start wherever you can. Give the students creative license, I think. Try to reduce the numbers of edits and the little ticky-tacky things that I don't really think matter in the donor's mind. If there's an outdated logo somewhere in the background on a garbage can, are we really going to make a student go out and reshoot that because of that outdate? Come on. That's not authentic video at all. It's what they're seeing in the, on campus. That's just not a good use of resources. So reduce those barriers, really be authentic.
We talk about how polish also diminishes the credibility of these videos.
Yes, please.
So the more intensely professional you are trying to make a video, oftentimes the less it's going to give you what you're looking for out of it. The imperfections lend credibility, lend relatability. And as we know, a lot of people also don't like to feel like the institution is wasting its money. Super overproduced video, that can be such a turnoff. Just like getting really fancy direct mail can make somebody feel like, oh, I don't think they need my money. I don't think they need my support in any way. So don't overthink that stuff.
100%.
I think it's really a great point of, we're talking about authenticity. We're not talking about, actors here. And I think the biggest thing to make sure you focus on is, if there is a message, try to workshop that with whoever's going to be in these videos versus just handing over a script. Even if it's something like 3 or 4 lines, it might feel wooden if somebody is reading off of a page there, and not going to be as captivating or compelling as something that they had a role in helping to shape. And I think when we look at the student video, especially, it's, their experience, their words, and their story that makes the biggest impact. So there's a happy medium there, obviously, with talking points, messaging points that we want to hit, but how that's delivered as well. And I love the point about let's get more mileage out of all this content. Everybody is totally right. We do not need 1,000 videos necessarily, when you can take a 60-second spot and you can cut that down to a shorter version for running on paid social media, for example. But then you can have a landing page asset also created out of that. You can have one of those videos, there's a lot of different use cases there. We can get a lot more mileage. We can repurpose, and 100% agree, get that out multiple times on different channels. That is really the key to success. And so I want to talk a little bit about, there's a two-prong approach here. There's the video production and creating the creative asset itself. And then there's the other prong of how do we get that in front of the people that we want to see that video, right? And they're equally important. We can't kind of adopt a field of dreams. If we build it, they will come model. We've got to go out there and capture that attention and stop the scroll a lot of times. So when we think about how we can do this, I'm going to run through some different channels and just give some different use cases for how you can take video and just integrate it into what you're already doing, right? So as I'm going through this, please put in the Q&A some creative ways, whether it's somebody at your institution or organization has used video in marketing outreach, or something you've seen and just loved from other organizations as well. So, thinking about our audience, their experience, we've talked about this a couple of times. It's not linear, right? They're coming in at different points. They're absorbing messages on different channels. So if you take a look at your email marketing list, I'm sure everybody would love for click-through rates to be a little bit higher, right? Email is still a very effective channel, but how we deploy it, how we use it is changing. And so we've seen some really solid success with our client partners by, if we're directing people to a landing page that has a video already on that. So think about, Giving Day, crowdfunding sites, anything that can really host a video. Just putting a GIF or even a thumbnail with a play button overlaid, you'll see click rates increase dramatically. We, in our experience, one of our client partners actually saw a 20x increase in click-through rate. Not 20%. That's like going from 100 people clicking through to 2,000. So just imagine what we could do with that volume, go into the sites that we want, and hopefully, whether it's an engagement or a fundraising focused goal, converting. Direct mail, I think Perry mentioned this one, QR codes really came back in vogue. And so this is a great way to go from analog to digital. I get a direct mail piece, and let's say it's for a membership renewal, but if I scan that QR code and I go to a giving form with a student video talking all about why it's important I renew my gift, what that means to students like them, that goes a long way versus our traditional go to this, mail a check or go to this giving form. So we can add a much richer experience onto the end of some of these things. One of my favorites is organic social media. If you've been in the social media world for any period of time, it's very tough to get traction with organic social media. It's rapidly changed into pay to play. But we love deploying these videos as kind of like an engagement starter. So putting a video that's talking about favorite study place on campus or class they took or professor that made an impact. And then the copy of the post asking people to chime in, tag your classmate, tell us what you think. What about your time here? When we do that, we get extra activity on those social media posts, which is going to make the algorithm respond favorably, which means we're going higher up in people's feeds. So again, something you might already be doing, you can easily integrate into. And then love paid digital, whether this is paid social media, whether this is advertising on Google Display, a lot of opportunity here. We love to use videos as warming content, and that's basically priming people, getting them ready in advance of whatever we might be asking them to do. We want them to be educated and informed before that even gets in front of them. But also one of the great things when we approach it this way is we can build up a remarketing pool. And that's really important because we're trimming our audience. And we're getting to focus on the people who have opted in, who have engaged with our content, who have been watching these videos a certain percentage of the way through. They're raising their hand. They're ready for that next step on their respective journey. So we can go from an audience of 100,000 and look at only the people who have viewed 15 seconds or more of a video, for example. And we can really trim that list down to about 15, 20,000, a much smaller, manageable pool, which also lets us spend our advertising budget more effectively. So lots of good to be gained there. And then I mentioned this as well, but a giving day, a CYE, a fiscal year end, the type of campaigns that you might be directing people to a landing page that has the ability to host videos. These can really work wonders, especially for providing updates throughout the day, pushing that out to followers, giving them an opportunity to take that video, share it with their own networks. There's a lot of good to be gained here. And a lot of this is already happening. It just takes a few more steps to integrate video into some of these channels that I mentioned. So, lots of opportunity there. I think the biggest takeaway would be you've got to start testing this out and seeing what works. Whether this is on the paid front, the organic front, whatever it might be, run an A/B test on email with a strictly copy-based email and an email that has a GIF. See which of those variations is a winner. And in our own statistics, I think we'd say version B would be the winner there. But run those tests, see what it says, see what type of content resonates with people. Take that data back, and then that's going to inform future planning there. So launch to learn. Don't be afraid to test things out. Don't be afraid to dip a toe in this water. It's really an important time to start rolling out some more of this authentic video.
Yeah, 100%. Just on that A/B test to show you a case study that we've observed. And this goes back to what Perry was saying about avoid polish, right? That high production value content that doesn't give people the realness that they connect to in the same way that authentic video does. And we've got evidence to prove that in the A/B environment. We did a test on Facebook. So we had an audience that we split it up, A/B. So same spend, same platform, same audience. Each video was almost exactly 60 seconds in duration. So the watch time was the same. And what we were looking for were complete video views. The one video, the A group, was a video of the chancellor. Very polished, very high production value, perfectly lit, very stoic, very clear message, give to the giving day, right? Then we had the student video. Very authentic, very real. Students' voices were very present in that video content. And the student video was watched to completion almost 3,000 times. I think the number was 2,925. The chancellor video was watched to completion 54 times. It just didn't even register. The student video so vastly outperformed that. If you do the math, that's a 54x increase on complete video views. People trust real content. They want real content. You look at the influencer space right now. The typical celebrity influencer is falling out of fashion because people know it's not real. What they want is someone who looks like all of us at a store talking about their opinions. That's the type of influencer stuff that's working in the for-profit retail space. And it's the same thing here in the fundraising space. Realness connects. It increases engagement. It leads to real results. All right. I think that's the end of the planned content. We got 6 minutes left. Are there any questions that we didn't get to? Please go ahead and type those in the Q&A if you'd like. We'll go ahead and answer those. I do want to let everybody know we will be back here in 8 days. So not a week from today, a week from tomorrow. We're going to do part 2 of this webinar. And in that webinar, we're really going to dig into the how, like operationally, how do you build an authentic student video or an authentic video program for your organization? In the meantime, if you have follow-up questions, if you want to learn more about our work, got the QR codes on screen for you here. Just go ahead, obviously hover over. You got contact information for both Perry and for First Name. So I'll leave this on the screen for a bit. Again, would love some follow-up questions. We will, for everyone who's attending, get a recording of this out afterwards. And we'll also send you a link to register for next week's webinar, which is going to take place same time, but on Thursday, November 9th. So that'll be next week. Give everybody a day to recover from all their work during the election day, right? On Tuesday, November 7th. Make sure you vote, by the way. Let's see. I think we maybe answered a question that popped up.
I'd love to share a couple more thoughts on getting buy-in about video. If it's
please.
Something you've done before. So I have 3 ideas for you. The 3 ideas are FOMO, R&D, and round robin. So FOMO. How many times have you had a VP or AVP come to your office and show you what their kids' college is sending them and asked if you're doing it? Or what your competitor school or sister school is doing? So you have great opportunities, especially if you know what the comp schools are, what are viewed as your comp schools, to go see what they're doing and show leadership how cool it could be if you could do it. The next is R&D. So is there a team, or are you that person who is the inventive, futuristic one doing new things? It's not always the most, the position where you're going to get the most gratitude or the most kudos for what you do, but there's always somebody or some team that's trying new things. Partner with those folks or be those folks. And, kind of like Zach was saying earlier, launch to learn, try things out. And if you have some really great results, like 54 times better engagement, bring that to your leadership. They're going to pay attention. The last thing I would say is round robin. So going to this idea that we are all engaging with video all the time. The next time you're in a retreat or a senior manager comes to your team meeting, open up the meeting to ask people what video content they're watching, who they're following, who they're paying attention to, and what that video looks like. And I think that will help get people in the mindset of it doesn't need to be overproduced. This is really personal. This is what I'm spending a lot of my time on and what our people are spending time on it. And it bridges that gap between what we do in our personal lives and what we're doing in our work lives, and really showing that it's video. It's all one and the same.
Great advice. Thank you, Perry. All right. Any other questions? Any other comments? Let us know. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thanks for joining us and talking about this. I do think, because to Perry's point, the evidence is there. I think we're going to see a lot more of this over the next few years in higher education. I think we're going to really open up the communication channels, involve students in the planning, and especially in the production of content to really just reach a whole heck of a lot more people. So we're looking forward to all of that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you hopefully all again back here a week from tomorrow, Thursday, November 9th, for part 2, when we really talk about the operational side of building authentic video ambassador programs. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Perry, Zach, thank you both so much. Looking forward to next week. We'll see you then.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody.